with a low of 7. Tomorrow, another mainly sunny and very warm day. Some rain in the northwest, a high of 26 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lisa Aziz.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Well, good evening and thank you for joining me on today, Good Friday. And obviously that is the most important aspect of today. It is a commemoration of the crucifixion of Christ, and I'm sure many of you will have been to the solemn liturgy, which is perhaps once one of the most moving services of the liturgical calendar on this very important and sad day. But I'm not going to talk to you about Good Friday. I'm not a priest, so it's not my speciality, but we must remember it. What I'm going to talk about is the Extinction Rebellion and the inconvenience that's been caused to hundreds of thousands of people going about their lawful business, the questions of whether the police have done enough to move on these demonstrators, and whether the point has been made and whether this is the right way to make the point, and the accusations of hypocrisy that are swirling around concerning some of the protesters. The British record in climate change is actually pretty good, that emissions have come down in this country. We've reduced them further than any other major Western country. The UK has the deepest emissions reductions over the past 2 decades, which has mainly come through the phasing out of coal power and energy efficiency measures, that we have got ahead of other nations in doing this, and that people want to lead comfortable lives. There's been an amazing reduction in the amount of undernourished people in the world, 200 million fewer people in the last 25 years, even with the increase in the global population. And that, of course, has required modern life to be brought to the rest of the world, and all the benefits that we take for granted to spread to the rest of the world. And that requires energy, it requires electricity to ensure the refrigeration of food in India, so that people can have less chance of getting illnesses from food that is not in perfect condition. And these are very important developments, and the idea that the standard of living that the West enjoys should not be enjoyed by people in other parts of the world surely seems to me to be an unfair and unreasonable one. But also the effect of these protests. The pollution levels by Waterloo Bridge were apparently higher than ever because of these protests, that if you make traffic stationary, then it puts out more pollution. And is that really a sensible thing to achieve, or is it entirely counterproductive? And isn't there a democratic means of doing it? Why don't these people stand for election? It's not like the suffragettes. The suffragettes had no democratic means of doing it because they couldn't stand for election. But these people, they can stand. We've got elections, local elections coming up, European elections coming up, general elections. If they're so confident of their argument, why on earth don't they put their names forward? Why do they think that the best way to do it is to make other people's life a misery? And is there a degree to which they have a perfectly nice life and they just want to stop others to enjoying it? But I'm glad to say that Dr. Rupert Reed is a guest today, and he's been involved with the Extinction Rebellion since prior to its launch, so he's a key figure within it. Dr. Reed, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us. Would you like to put your case for a moment, please?
Good evening, yes. Let me just start out with a bit of a correction. It's not actually true to say that the British record on climate is strong. That's only so if you use the wrong statistics. If you use the right statistics, in other words, if you include air travel, which of course has been going up hugely, sea travel, and embodied emissions, which means the emissions in all the products we buy from China and India and so forth.
So is that the sort of air travel
you're... barely gone down since 1990, so it's just not true that we're showing leadership on this.
Is that the air travel that your leading figures are so keen on?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Don't you have a high-profile actress who flew over specially to join your protest? So you don't like air travel when it's for other people, but when it's for your mates, that's fine.
So look, what kind of game are we going to play here this evening? Are we going to have some kind of back and forth? I mean, I could talk about your top hat and your 6 children. Would that really get us very far? Can I propose that we actually focus in on the issues? And the real question, of course,
I'm delighted to talk about my 6 children, of whom I'm enormously proud, but I don't see that they're
wonderful, but it wouldn't really serve the cause of us getting very clear about what the way forward is on dangerous climate change, would it?
They're not relevant to your subject. So do you explain your protest? Why have you done this? Why do you think it's the right way to go about it?
So the reason we've done this is because time has run out. You said before that, well, why can't people just stand for election? Our democratic system is clearly broken and failing, and I'll tell you who can't stand for election. It's our children and its unborn future generations, and they're the ones who are going to bear the absolute brunt of this. That's why there were children demonstrating at Heathrow today, because they're terrified about their future. And if you
they weren't very successful at Heathrow, were they? Not many people joined them. Only about 20 people were there. That wasn't much of a demonstration.
Well, maybe you should have come along. There'd have been 21. The point is this.
Well, I'm not a child anymore. But you're avoiding the point.
You did speak for quite a while, and you've asked me to put my case, so perhaps I could.
I'm delighted for you to put your case, but you're avoiding the question. Because why don't you stand for election? Why didn't you stand at the last election? There are elections every 5 years.
Well, I stood in elections. I'm from the Green Party. Various people in Extinction Rebellion are from all sorts of parties and no parties.
So how did you do?
What we're talking about here is a threat, which is on a scale which it seems that our democratic system is completely unable to rise to the challenge of. And that's why one of our demands is for citizens' assemblies. What we're saying is, it's clear now, and anyone who saw David Attenborough's program last night will understand this, that we need drastic emissions reductions, and we need them fast. We're calling for there to be citizens' assemblies chosen from members of the public, like the process that happened in Ireland a few years ago, which would decide how we're going to make that fast transition to where we need to go. That would be what it would be for Britain to show climate leadership in a true sense. And that is what we're calling for. That's a central demand of ours.
You're asking for citizens' assemblies, but isn't it true that you can't win elections? You lost, didn't you, when you stood for election?
Well, as you know, Jacob, all too well, our democratic system, so-called, is profoundly flawed. It's first past the post, for a start, which is absolutely cruel to third parties or insurgent parties. And
but
the bottom line
is
that what we're facing here is a civilizational threat. We're facing a threat of complete collapse, and in very short order. As you'll know if you've read the UN 1.5 degree report, we have a couple of years to get started on a project of reducing our emissions by at least half by 2030. And we in Extinction Rebellion think those figures are actually not serious enough, not aggressive enough. We think it actually needs to be 2025 at the least.
Okay,
and that means that we have to do everything
just
extremely quickly. So that's why we're saying the traditional democratic system, so-called, is just not good enough. I think everybody knows, I think all your listeners know, that it's failing us, that it's broken. We're
so
saying
your
it needs,
argument
it needs
is,
a
thank you,
supplement.
you've said that, you've said it's broken. But the question really for you is you're basically saying because you don't get elected, because your views aren't accepted popularly, you've got to take protest action. You've got the opportunity to put your views. You're being on the airwaves now. You have every opportunity previously to stand. But because you fail in election, you say you should impose what you think by force. What makes you so right and so certain when you can't win people over to vote for you?
This is an emergency. What part of that don't you understand? It's an emergency. The scientists have made very clear, David Attenborough, our National Treasurer, has made very clear that we've got very little time to act. Now, unfortunately, the government of which you are a part is not intending to act with anything like the speed required, and in fact, they're moving in the wrong direction. You want to frack. You want to have a new runway at Heathrow.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned fracking.
Have faith in a system which is taking us in that direction.
I'm very glad you mentioned
fracking.
fracking.
We've resorted to this action, and that's, of course, why I'm able to talk to you now, because we've had the publicity, because of the people being on the street and the 500 brave people who put themselves in a position where they're ready to be arrested. That's why I'm talking to you now, and I think that in itself shows that this action has had a very profound positive effect.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned fracking, because, as you know, fracking has led to the biggest reduction in carbon dioxide emissions in the United States,
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to correct you again there, because actually the fugitive methane emissions from fracking are a climate disaster in the making.
Carbon dioxide has come right down in the US.
Part of the solution.
But carbon dioxide right down in the US because of fracking.
But the
methane
emissions have gone right up, Mr. Rees-Mogg.
Great opportunity for the UK.
Facts, you would find out that they're extremely important, because methane is a gas which is approximately 100 times as dangerous as carbon dioxide to the atmosphere.
If you get the energy that we need and you can reduce carbon dioxide emissions, isn't that better than making us all live in caves?
Absolutely not. As I've been trying to explain.
So you want to live in a cave,
will you let me answer the question? You've asked the question. Will you let me answer it?
Far away.
As I've been trying to explain, fracking is a process which actually releases methane, and that is a deadly climate gas. It's in the short term 100 times as strong as carbon dioxide. Levels of fracking in the atmosphere have been levels of methane in the atmosphere have been going up substantially in the last couple of years. Scientists are extremely worried about it. Fracking is one of the causes. That's one of many reasons why the British public is in fact overwhelmingly opposed to fracking, and I don't believe that fracking will actually ever come to this country, which I think most people are extremely pleased about.
Well, I hope it does, because of the success in reducing carbon emissions in the United States. I think it's a big boon. And I also think people should have the energy that they need to live improving lives and have a better standard of living. And it's really interesting that a lot of the people on the protests don't seem to enjoy too hard a lifestyle themselves. And it's a protest of people who are, they're all right, Jack, thanks very much. When are you going to end these protests?
Well, let me just take up your point about a hard life. I don't think you've got much of a right to speak about that. I don't think you have a terribly hard life.
But
I really don't think it serves anybody for you to try to make...
Thank you for that. I'll answer that point, because you say that, but then I make no bones about it. I'm not a humbug. I don't say other people should have more miserable lives. I say that people should have better lives and governments should do things to help them. But what you're saying is that your lives are fine and you should make other people's lives more difficult and take away the advantage of cheap energy. That's pretty selfish and hypocritical, isn't it?
The climate school strikers are doing what they do. Heroic people like Greta Thunberg, who will be in Parliament next week, I hope you'll go to hear her.
Why don't they do
what they do? Because they are worried that they are not going to have any life at all.
Why don't these school children do it in the holidays?
Please listen.
No, I've given you lots of time. This is meant to be a discussion. So let's go back and forth. Why don't they do their protests in the school holidays? Why do they have to protest to avoid double maths? No answer. Okay, so can I just ask you the question?
Will you let me answer the question, please?
Well, you went silent, but I asked you one question which you didn't answer. When are you going to end your protests before we go to the news?
I'll come to that in a moment. Now,
I've got to go to the news. When are you going to their protests? When are you going to end? No, I want to ask you the question because I've got to go to the news. When are you going to end the protest?
Right, when are we going to end the protest? We will end the protest when the government agrees to negotiate with us. If the government agrees to negotiate with us, we will...
Well, I hope the government doesn't give in to that sort of pressure. You've been listening to Jacob Rees-Mogg on LBC this Good Friday. It's just after 6:15 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
The partner of the journalist Lyra McKee, killed during riots in Londonderry last night, has described her murder as barbaric and senseless. Police say they've now arrested 682 people in 5 days of protest by environmental campaigners in central London. They've just removed a boat that's been blocking Oxford Circus all week. A 74-year-old man is in a critical condition after being shot with a crossbow in a remote part of North Wales. LBC weather dry and largely clear for much of the UK through tonight. Cloudy further north, a low of 7 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh. In central London, road closures remain in place because of the ongoing demonstrations, and that's including Waterloo Bridge, Parliament Square, Oxford Circus and Marble Arch. The A10 in Tottenham is closed southbound near to White Hart Lane following an accident, and the A21 Farnborough Common is closed both ways between the Fantail and Wellbrook Road following an accident. There are queues now on the approach to the closure, and on the trains, Chiltern Railways have delays of up to 20 minutes between High Wycombe and West Ruislip because of an investigation.
This is LBC.
This week at Tesco, large Easter eggs are 3 for £10. And we've got a large choice too on all your favourite brands, including Twirl, Snickers and Smarties. At 3 for £10, why shell out more? Tesco. Every little helps. Ends 22nd of April, selected stores subject to availability.
When you buy the award-winning Alfa Romeo Giulia or the Stelvio Performance SUV, you can pretend it's for the 5-year warranty, the 3 years free servicing, 5 years roadside assistance, or the 5 years 0% APR. But the real reason is, you just want an Alfa Romeo. Start something beautiful. Visit alfaromeo.co.uk.
5 years or 75,000 miles warranty. Minimum 35% customer deposit. 60 months term. HP sales until 30th of June 2019. T's and C's apply. Alfa Romeo Financial Services.
This is an Arabian adventure in Dubai. A cultural experience like no other. Thrilling camel rides across the expansive desert, or inspiring sunsets viewed from the magnificent Burj Khalifa. Or simply immersing yourself in stunning seaside panoramas and adrenaline-inducing water parks at Atlantis the Palm. This is a travel bag holiday packed with 40 years of experience. To book, visit us in store or at travelbag.co.uk.
When it comes to making a PPI claim, you can either do all the work yourself by complaining directly to your lender or the Financial Ombudsman for free, or you can contact the claims guys and get them to do all the donkey work for you. So if you don't have the time or the paperwork, or you're not certain you have PPI, make sure you beat the deadline on the 29th of August 2019 for making new claims by contacting the claims guys. Text ANSWER to 66777. Text ANSWER to 66777 now.
The Claims Guys.
Welcome back to Little Spring Spotters.
As winter defrosts, we see the family's diet change from winter stodge to lighter options.
Like the Lighthouse Bay Norwegian side of salmon, just £12.39 a kilo.
What a catch.
Lidl, big on quality, little on price.
Subject to availability, selected stores, excludes NI.
In the Oak Furnitureland Easter sale, everything's reduced, including our brand new ranges. So you save on, well, everything. Ends Easter Monday.
Have you had an operation that has left you with persistent pain around the healed scar? You may feel this pain as burning, aching, shooting, throbbing, or stabbing. At St Pancras Clinical Research, we're looking at a new potential treatment for this pain, which we apply topically. The study will take place in London, and if you volunteer, you'll be paid for your time and reasonable expenses. Find out more at stpancrasclinicalresearch.com. That's stpancrasclinicalresearch.com.
At QuickFit, we want you to have complete peace of mind. That's why right now, we're giving away a free dashcam worth $79.99 to every customer who buys 2 or more Michelin tyres. Just book online or head down to your local QuickFit today and drive away happy with a free dashcam. For terms and conditions, visit quickfit.com.
This Easter, we've got lots of great offers at John Lewis & Partners, with hundreds of promotions on electricals and 20% off selected home products, available in-store and online. So whether you're updating a room or refreshing your home, we're here to help. John Lewis & Partners. For us, it's personal. Terms and conditions apply.
Jacob Rees-Mogg on LBC.
Well, welcome back. I've been speaking to Dr. Rupert Reed from the Extinction Rebellion, who basically told me they had to do it because they couldn't win elections and therefore they needed to take direct action. And that we all had to listen to him even though nobody wanted to vote for him, which doesn't seem to me the best democratic form, and that he would stop his protests if instead we spoke to him and took his views into account. So it's basically threatened bullying by direct action. But we've got lots of callers coming in, and we've had lots of text and tweets. Dominic in Banbury says the solution to climate change is the only carbon-neutral mass energy available today, nuclear energy. But you can guarantee that most of these climate change protesters are against that too, as they're against fracking. They basically want us to be cave dwellers. And Richard in Chelsea says it's questionable science that we've only 12 years left before it's too late to stop catastrophic climate change and the end of all life on Earth. But why have the police allowed a bunch of trendy snowflakes to close central London? And I think that's a really important question, so very interested in people's views on how the police have responded to this. But I'm going to go to Vanessa, a first-time caller from Bedford. Vanessa,
Hello.
What are your thoughts? Hello, good evening.
Hiya, I'm 17, so I'm a student.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually believe that I'm completely against this entire movement. I think that what they're demanding is completely improbable. To have zero carbon emissions by 2025 is absolutely deranged. It's impossible to be able to, reduce them to that extent. Although one thing which I am quite intrigued by is your opposition to fracking, because I do believe it was on the Conservative manifesto that they wanted to ensure that fracking was not implemented in the UK.
Don't think so, no. I think the Conservatives are in favour of fracking, but with controls to make sure that it's safe. And it has, as I was saying to Dr. Reed, had an amazing effect in the United States in reducing emissions. And it's also a cheap and secure source of energy because we're not dependent on risky foreign regimes. So I'm very in favour of fracking, but the Green Lobby always seem to be against the new technological solutions. And I don't really understand that. But I really respect what you're saying, Vanessa. I think you've really hit the nail on the head.
Yes, I mean, I completely agree with you that it's just an excuse. You know, you're completely messing with people's day-to-day lives. There are other ways to go about it. I mean, you can show your support through voting for the Green Party. And, it's just an excuse to get out of school. I would happily go along with it if I could get out of doing my several essays due back next week.
Well,
but, I have principles, and
Vanessa,
it's just
thank you.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you so much. It's really reassuring to hear somebody who's going to go to school rather than play truant by pretending to protest. Thank you. Alex, a new caller from Sevenoaks. Hello, Alex.
Yes.
Good evening.
Hello there. How are you?
Well, thank you. And you?
Yes, not too bad, thank you. I'd just like to start with saying that I approve of the Extinction Rebellion. It's not so much I approve of it, but I can see why it's happening, because people, especially with the Brexit situation, feel at the moment they have no voice, and this is the outcome of that. And I think it's going to be something that we're going to see more of.
But surely people have a voice in elections, and if you look at the opinion polls, the Brexit Party's gone shooting up into the lead, so people can have a voice in elections, and we have local elections, European elections, general elections. Isn't that the right way to go about getting change?
Yeah, I mean, we had an option to vote on Brexit, and we was going to be leaving last month, and that hasn't happened now, so...
I know. Look,
at the moment.
Alex, you've called the wrong programme, actually, because I discuss Brexit almost every week, and this is a week off Brexit.
I'm in relation to it, this is the outcome of that, is people need to feel they need to take this action now.
That's an interesting point, but ring in on Brexit specifically, and we'll have a longer discussion on that next time, because I'm going to go to Hannah, who's a new caller from Balham. Hannah, hello, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Rees-Mogg. Now, I have been up there for some of the week. I've been up there with my fellow brothers and sisters, and the police, on Tuesday, there was 10 vans parked on Park Lane. 8 of them were running their engines, full of coppers, sitting in the vans doing nothing. When they mobilise, they do it once, and then everyone gets on it and shows the coverage. Now, my brothers and sisters are protesting because if there's no Earth, where do we go? There's no planet B, Mr. Rees-Mogg. And Theresa May going off and having a walk in the countryside is nice for her, but her city needs her to be the Prime Minister. And Extinction Rebellion are getting the job done, getting the word out there.
But they're not.
And what is she going to do? What is Mrs. May going to do?
They're not getting the job done, are they?
So we are getting the job done.
No, you're
We're
not.
closing down central London.
And that's
We've
caused
closed
more
it down
pollution.
on 4 sites. It's caused disruption, and it will continue to do so until Theresa May steps up as Prime Minister, does her job and says, we will do the job together.
Well, the UK has the... Hold on. Do let me get a word in edgeways.
No
but the
problem.
British government has the best record of any Western government over the last 2 decades. It's done its bit. But the rest of the world needs to join in on this, and just having protests in London isn't going to change anything. The protest in London led to more pollution because it led to such long traffic jams. And why don't you stand for election? If your case is so strong, people will vote for you. But they don't, do they?
Rees-Mogg, all we're going to do is cause more and more disruption until Theresa May gets her finger out and does the job, instead of going on holiday when her city is in tatters at the moment.
But that's pretty selfish and undemocratic, isn't it? It's pretty totalitarian that we must do what you say or you'll make our lives a misery.
No. Let me tell you, climate change is real. I have a daughter. I want my daughter to have a planet. I want my grandchildren to have a planet. And if we don't start changing as a country, while the government that we have is in power, we are never going to get on top of climate change.
Nobody's denying what you're saying about climate change. What they're saying is that if you want to take the action you're talking about and the extreme decarbonisation programme you're calling for, win an election and get people on board.
Well, we'll see what happens when Theresa finally calls that general election that she's scared to call, because she knows she's going to lose it.
Then wait for an election. Use the democratic process rather than terrorising people and making their lives miserable.
You're with her every day. We're doing the job. You tell her, call an election, and let's see how long the Tories stay in power.
We had an election in 2017. The Greens' vote went down, didn't it, from 2015? So the problem is...
I'm a Labour Party member myself, and
Okay.
I stand up for climate change. And I stand up for climate change because there's only one planet, Mr. Rees-Mogg. You can't deny that. You cannot deny there's only one planet, and once it's gone...
Well, no,
where
that's
do
obviously
humans
not
go?
true. There are lots of planets,
Where do
but there's only
humans
one
go?
that has life on it. Never mind. Thank you so much. Enjoy campaigning for the Labour Party in the local elections. I'm going to go to Jordan, who's a first-time caller from Hemel Hempstead.
Good evening, Mr. Rees-Mogg.
Good evening. Thank you for calling.
And I do kind of sympathise with the protesters, but I don't really support their actions. It's just, it seems, like you say, it's causing a lot of pollution. the Heathrow Airport thing, no one even turned up to that, which was quite entertaining, I thought.
Yes, and perhaps they couldn't hitch a lift there. They seem to be driving vehicles into their protest in central London. So it seems to be a great deal of do as I say but not as I do. We'll jet round the world, we'll travel thousands of miles, we'll go, as one of them was caught, shopping in Waitrose. We'll have all the finer things in life, but we'll make everybody else's life a little bit less pleasant.
Well, I think they've not even got any ideas of how to save us. They just say the government should declare an emergency and do something. When the government are trying to do things, but we don't really know what to do. They need to come up with more ideas. When we leave the EU, we should leave the fishing policy. They can stop destroying places like Poole.
We'd have a much better
fishing.
We could have our own policies then, couldn't we, with our fishing stocks? And we've done extraordinarily well around the Falklands in preserving fishing stocks where it's under our control.
I've not looked into that myself, but
it's been a great success. Well, Jordan, thank you for your views. I'm going to go to Sue, who's a first-time caller from Cheam. Sue, I just squeeze you in before the news. What would you like to say this evening?
Yeah, do you believe that climate change is actually happening?
Well, I think we have an effect on the climate.
No, do you believe that climate change is actually happening?
The climate's always changed. The issue really is whether it's created by us or whether it's created by natural forces. And I'm sure that what we do...
Do you believe that climate change is happening as a result of what we are doing?
I'm sure we have an effect on the climate.
So why isn't the Tory government doing more
with
regard to solar panels and all the other ways of trying to reduce the emissions?
There's been an enormous increase in solar panels. 985,401 sites with solar panels in Britain. It's amazing. 15 years ago, there were almost none. That's in the Daily Mail today. The facts on this are stunning.
Is there a reduction in the grants for solar panels?
Yes, but solar panels have come down in price. But it's now 6:30, the time's against us on this Good Friday. It's Jacob Rees-Mogg and it's time for the news with Lisa Aziz.
Police believe the killing of a journalist shot in Londonderry last night was part of an orchestrated attempt to murder officers. 29-year-old Lyra McKee had been covering rioting in the Craigan area. She'd been standing close to a police vehicle. Her partners described her death as senseless. Scotland Yard says more than 680 people have now been arrested in climate change protests since Monday. Officers are currently clearing the Oxford Circus junction in central London, which has been occupied by Extinction Rebellion activists all week. A 74-year-old man is in a critical condition in hospital after being shot with a crossbow in North Wales. Police say it happened in the early hours in a remote location near Holyhead. LBC weather. Dry and largely clear for much of the UK through tonight. Cloudy though further north, a low of 7 degrees.
LBC at the weekend. Matt Fry.
I know you're one of those people who want to revoke Article 50, is that right? Right.
Mr. Davis said we would have the exact same benefits from outside.
Whatever you say about what was first posited in the referendum, that you want to revoke an article which would go against the very grain of this enormous democratic exercise that was the referendum. That is politically explosive.
Leading Britain's conversation. Matt Fry. Saturday mornings from 10 on LBC.
Protecting your business from cybercrime is a growing priority, yet understanding how to stay ahead of potential threats is challenging. Whether you're a startup or an established business, BT is here to help. With a wide range of security-embedded products and services built especially for businesses. Find out more and enter to win a Pixel 3 smartphone plus a Google Home Hub at lbc.co.uk. BT, helping business relationships stay on track.
You know your business, what keeps you up at night, and the moments that make it all worthwhile. You know your 5-year plan, and that you really want to be there in 2. We know we can help you get there. Barclays offers unsecured loans of up to £100,000 that can be with you in days, or even hours. To apply for a loan that's right for your business, search Barclays Business Loans. Let's go forward. Subject to status, T's and C's apply, guarantee may be needed.
Easter is the perfect time for treats. We've conveniently forgotten our New Year's resolutions, and then there's all the delicious hot cross buns, and the chocolate eggs, of course, and the chocolate bunnies, and those little chocolate eggs, and, well, all the chocolate. But if all this indulgence gives you heartburn and indigestion, Get dual relief with Gaviscon Double Action. It gets to work instantly and lasts up to twice as long as antacids. Gaviscon Double Action. Always read the label.
5 stars, would definitely recommend. It's a quality car seat. Strong, sturdy and 100% safe. Perfect for our little lad. Not that I'd know. Never even owned a car seat. Don't have a car, don't have kids, don't have a conscience. I don't care if you end up with an unsafe product. Not when I'm getting paid to write fake reviews.
A fake review could cost you more than you think. A Which membership helps you avoid these lies. Search Which for impartial product reviews. Which, keep questioning.
It's time. Time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Discover the multi-award-winning Peugeot SUV range. From the compact and stylish 2008, previously voted best small SUV, to the technologically advanced 3008 with over 60 awards, or the ultra-flexible 7-seat 5008. What car's best large SUV for the 2nd year running? Order your award-winning Peugeot SUV by the end of June and indulge in a luxury overnight stay for 2 in a top UK hotel. T's and C's apply. Visit Peugeot.co.uk for details.
Hi there, I'm Jill from Network Rail with some important news if you're travelling over Easter and the early May bank holiday. As part of ongoing work to improve the railways, we're carrying out essential rail upgrades across different parts of the UK. From Friday the 19th to Monday the 22nd of April, and from Saturday the 4th until Monday the 6th of May. This means some services will change and some won't be running. To keep your plans on track, make sure to check before you travel at nationalrail.co.uk/Easter.
Leading Britain's conversation. Jacob Rees-Mogg. Tweet at LBC.
Well, welcome back this evening. It is, of course, Good Friday, and we haven't been talking about the crucifixion and death of our Lord on this day, but it is, of course, the major thing about today, more important than any individual item that is going on in the news. But what we are in fact talking about is the Extinction Rebellion, the trouble they've been causing in central London, their failure to cause trouble at Heathrow. Hardly anybody turned up and they stood on a roundabout and may have said something or the other, but nobody really noticed, so that wasn't much of it. But in central London there have been 570 arrests, that there's been considerable disruption to hundreds of thousands of people. There have been charges of hypocrisy, and we hear that people seem to be driving in to join the protests. There was a piece by Jeremy Warner in the Telegraph this morning saying he saw somebody pop out of Waitrose, 2 people pop out of Waitrose who'd been protesting, and you do think that it's all right for them. It's the sort of I'm all right, Jack approach to green protesting. But the question really for this evening is, everyone's now talking about them. Has the point been made? We're getting lots of calls and lots of tweets coming in. Anne in Blackburn has tweeted to say, I think we're all agreed action needs to be taken, but the protesters have caused a lot of problems/damage. If these protesters were really serious, then go pick up rubbish. How many have jobs? How many protesters work for businesses that add to the problem? I'm sick of these selfish bullies. And I think Anne's got a really good point. If you look at the graffiti that's been left and the damage that has been done, these people who say they're so environmental have actually been making a mess of our environment. They've been making it less attractive, and chemicals will have to be used to remove the graffiti. Indeed, chemicals have to be used to take the super glue off their hands when they've stuck themselves to the sides of Jeremy Corbyn's railings and all sorts of things like that. And it does seem that they say one thing and they do another. It's do as I say, not as I do. Peter has also texted in to say, I totally agree with you about these green types standing for election. They should put their money where their mouths are. And I think that's the argument, isn't it? We live in a democracy. There's nothing to stop them standing in general and local elections, but they don't because they're too fanatical. People don't want to vote for them. But I've got a first-time caller from Mid-Staffordshire, Stuart. Good evening. What would you like to say this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Mogg. It's nice to talk to you. Generally, I agree with much of what you say about the previous subject, the B subject, but on this, I just can't agree with you.
Okay, far away.
I'm a power plant operator, I've worked in all the sectors from coal. I was kicked out of the coal industry 30 years ago when the Conservatives killed the power industry, and since then I've worked in waste management and power from waste. And last week, in fact, last night should have been my last night shift at my plant at Oldbury, which is a gasification plant, which was a gasification plant, which actually heated up the refuse and turned it into gas to burn to generate electricity. Now, it's unfortunate, but your politicians just don't understand science. And I'm afraid that is your point. It doesn't matter whether you burn rubbish or you contaminate the ground to get oil out of the ground. The combustion products are all the same. It's carbon dioxide and water. It doesn't matter if you pump the carbon dioxide back into the ground, eventually it will come back.
Yes, but the proportions are different, aren't they? That coal produces more carbon dioxide than the gas you get from fracking. So the proportions vary, and that's relevant.
It doesn't matter what proportions there are. It's all CO2 and it all leads to global warming. The point is...
But we're not going to have zero, are we?
The point is the human race itself, right, is under real pressure because we are consuming the planet. We are at an alarming rate. This is a tipping point. I promise you now, and all your readers, this is a global tipping point. We need to make things that last longer. We need cars that last longer, machines that last longer, use less electricity.
I'm all in favour of that. I was out in my 1936 car earlier on today to go to church, so that's lasted a good long time. But do you know, the problem with what you're saying is this has all been said before. It was said by Malthus at the beginning of the 19th century, who thought that because food production would grow less quickly than population would grow, that therefore we would run out of food. And he's been consistently wrong. Technology and improved productivity has meant that mankind has been able to enjoy a better standard of living, an increased population, and the planet hasn't run out of resources. And I don't see why, with increased technology, this shouldn't continue.
But Mr. Rees-Mogg, have you ever seen a film called The Blue Planet by the BBC?
Yeah, I know.
Have you ever seen how thin the atmosphere is above the ground from the International Space Station? We've only got one of it, and when that goes, we're all dead. It doesn't matter that we have gold plates and cars from 1936, which are all very nice. I promise you, I'm a bike fan. I promise you. But when that thin blue bubble goes, we're all dead.
But with improved technology...
And our children, there won't be technology because people are too busy arguing.
So what's your solution?
Can you imagine the Israeli-Arab conflict being taken out into space in a spaceship?
I think we're wandering from the point there with space wars, but thank you, Stuart. I'm going to go to Andy, who's calling from High Wycombe. Andy, hello, good evening.
Hi, Jacob, how are you?
Hello. Well, thank you, and you?
Yeah, not too bad. The reason I picked up the phone is because I'm a Conservative voter, and I have been for all my life. I'm 50 years old now.
So you vote for my great friend Steve Baker in High Wycombe?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
and
excellent.
I've had a surgery with him, and the reason I had a surgery with him was to say that I will never vote Conservative again unless you change your environmental policies, because I totally believe in the small state.
Yes.
But I think you can have that hand in hand with environmental policies. And, I was talking to him about the environment, and the problem I think with the sort of Conservative MPs is they don't seem to care.
Okay, we're in an election period, so can I keep you off political parties, please? Sorry to be boring about it. Normally I'd be happy to, but with local elections and European elections, what do you want any government to do in terms of environmental policy?
Well, I want you to reverse you put the brakes on the subsidies for solar power and renewable.
But prices had come down dramatically, and therefore the subsidies bore no relation to the new prices.
But you can accelerate that.
I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd take the tariffs off so that we can import cheap Chinese solar panels rather than having to buy expensive German ones. And that's one of the things we can do once we leave the EU, and that's a real boost to solar power.
Yeah, but I just get the underlying feeling that the Conservative Party doesn't really believe in it. And, I can remember going to Thailand in the 80s and swimming over a pristine coral reef. I went back there in the 90s and it was gone.
I'll tell you what I believe.
And those reefs have been there for tens of thousands of years, and they've been gone in my lifetime.
But you've put the challenge down, and I'll tell you what I believe. I believe that by improving technology, we can both improve living standards and improve the environment. And it's really interesting, if you look at the clean air debates in the 1950s, before coal burning was banned in London, people thought it would be impossible to heat people's homes without burning coal in coal fires. That turned out not to be true. Technology gave people warmer homes, more comfortable homes, and it stopped the smog. And I think we can do that again. We don't need to cut our living standards to deal with this problem. But thank you for calling, Andy. I'm going to go to Alec, who's calling from Bracknell. Alec, good evening.
Hi there. I agree with the message that we're not doing enough and that we're not doing it fast enough. But I think that there are other platforms in which you can get that message across. David Attenborough does a wonderful job. He's changing the world with the use of single plastics and things. And I just feel that taking our city hostage and saying we will not stop until you negotiate with us is just completely the wrong tack. They have now got their message across. There is a debate happening, and they just need to give it up and go home, basically. They've done what they wanted. It's a conversation. People are on their side at the moment, relatively speaking, and if they keep going, then I'm afraid I'm just going to be annoyed for them holding the city hostage, basically, and causing disruption.
Alec, I really agree with you. I think people are entitled to their view, but they're not entitled to bully people into accepting their view. If they really feel it, they should stand for election and try and get people to vote for them.
Well, I agree with someone earlier who said that looking at the Brexit situation, which I know you don't want to talk about, that actually I feel my voice isn't heard anymore. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that I can go and take something hostage. I mean, you wouldn't negotiate with a bank robber, would you?
You're absolutely right. That's a perfect point to end on, because you're listening to Jacob Rees-Mogg on LBC this Good Friday. It is 6:45 and time for the news headlines with Lisa Aziz.
The partner of the journalist Lyra McKee, killed during riots in Londonderry last night, has described her murder as barbaric and senseless. Police say they've now arrested 682 people in 5 days of protest by environmental campaigners in central London. They've just removed a large pink boat that's been blocking Oxford Circus all week. A 74-year-old man is in a critical condition after being shot with a crossbow in a remote area of North Wales. LBC weather dry and largely clear for much of the UK through tonight. Cloudy though further north, a low of 7 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh. In central London, road closures remain in place because of the ongoing demonstrations, and that's including Waterloo Bridge, Parliament Square, Oxford Circus and Marble Arch. In the city, a lane is closed on Mansell Street southbound between Goodman's Yard and Tower Hill. That's for emergency repairs there. In Tottenham, the A10 remains closed off southbound near to White's Hart Lane following an accident, and the A21 Farnborough Common is closed both ways between the Fantail and Wellbrook Road following an accident. There are queues on the approach to the closure.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Andrew Pearce.
On day 5 of the environmental protest, John Prescott, an architect of a major treaty on climate change, joins me.
Andrew Pearce on LBC.
You know your business, what keeps you up at night, and the moments that make it all worthwhile. You know your 5-year plan, and that you really want to be there in 2. We know we can help you get there. Barclays offers unsecured loans of up to £100,000 that can be with you in days or even hours. To apply for a loan that's right for your business, search Barclays Business Loans. Let's go forward. Subject to status, T's and C's apply, guarantee may be needed.
Helen's homecoming lamb.
It's a lot quieter around here since the boys went off to college. Sunday roast was always the highlight. All the family around the table for my roast leg of lamb with salsa verde crust.
Hi, Mum. We brought a couple of pals back. Is that all right?
Yeah, it's good to have them back for a couple of weeks.
Because families seem to double at Easter, selected legs of grass-fed lamb are now half price. Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco. Selected stores excludes Express. Was £11 per kilo, now $5.50 per kilo. Offer ends 23rd of April.
Looking to brighten up your garden? At Wickes, we have a stunning range of new bedding plants, with fresh deliveries coming to your local Wickes store every week. Plants start from only £2.
Your business has come this far, but now's your time to soar into the skies of spectacular with a fast, affordable Funding Circle business loan. With decisions in as little as 24 hours and a dedicated account manager, there's no waiting around. So join the thousands of businesses who have taken out a Funding Circle loan and help your business fly. Apply today at fundingcircle.com. Authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. T's and C's apply.
Don't miss amazing extra savings in the Furniture Village sale this Easter. Save even more on a huge choice of sofas, dining and beds. In-store and online, we're sure there's something for you in the Furniture Village sale. But hurry, many offers end Easter Monday.
Do you need an alternative to your bank to secure finance? Well, Finance for Business are the brokers who can help you access it, allowing you to expand your property portfolio, to buy properties in need of refurbishment or development, or downsize and buy the dream home before your old house sells. Broking is the new banking, and Finance for Business are the brokers you can rely on. Search Finance for Business for details. Your home may be at risk of repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on a mortgage or any other loan secured on it.
Discover the multi-award-winning Peugeot SUV range. From the compact and stylish 2008, previously voted Best Small SUV, to the technologically advanced 3008, with over 60 awards, or the ultra-flexible 7-seat 5008. What car's Best Large SUV for the second year running? Order your award-winning Peugeot SUV by the end of June and indulge in a luxury overnight stay for two in a top UK hotel. T's and C's apply. Visit Peugeot.co.uk for details.
It's time. Time to join the millions of people that meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. With stunning HD video, crisp audio, and instant wireless sharing across any mobile, tablet, or desktop device. But the best thing about Zoom? It just works. So ditch the distractions, join the movement, and meet happy with Zoom video conferencing. Visit zoom.us to set up your free account today. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Leading Britain's conversation, LBC, with Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Welcome back. We've got lots of calls waiting, but we've had text and tweets as well. Donald in Pimlico says, "Thank you for having Dr. Reed on your show, as it seriously exposed his weak arguments. Police response should be stepped up, and the Mayor's response has been pathetic." Really interested in thoughts on the police response, if any of the callers have them. And Graham has got in touch to say one of the best ways of soaking up carbon dioxide is to plant trees. The best action these people could take is to crowdfund, buy land, roll up their sleeves and get planting. I read that out because I planted a mulberry tree yesterday, so I'm doing what I'm told. But Charlotte, in the Forest of Dean, what are your thoughts on? Do you think that their point's been made?
Well, I think they've made my point, but I think, like a lot of other groups, I think they're just fake. Mm-hmm. And like Black Lives Matter, if you remember, who lay down in the road in front of Heathrow about a year or so ago, they'll disappear into the ether and we'll never hear from them again. I think they're just absolutely fake.
You think they're fake? And do you think they're hypocritical? Is that your criticism, that they're all right?
I think the organisation itself is fake. I'd like to see who's funding them, to be quite honest with you. And I also think that, yes, they're bringing climate change to the fore, but then I'm probably going to infuriate your readers because I think climate change and the green scam, as I call it, I think it's just a huge, massive money-making scam, and it always has been.
Well, that's a very interesting, controversial point. I'm sure other callers will want to take that up. I'm going to go to Craig, who's calling from Isleworth. What are your thoughts? Do you think their point's been made? And they should go home now and have a bath? Hello.
Good afternoon, Jacob. Privileged to talk to you, sir.
Oh, you're kind. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, we could basically phone up to defend Britain a bit, really. It seems that it's the people in London who are causing congestion and causing chaos are kind of blaming this little country that puts 1% of the carbon into the... Sorry, 1% of the,
yeah, absolutely. Yes.
You know the word I'm looking for.
Of the carbon emissions, and that's what China adds in a year.
1% of the world, and it's China and the developing nations in the world that are pumping most of the rubbish into the air.
So how do you think these people would do if they went and protested in Tiananmen Square?
Well,
do you think the police there would dance with them?
I think maybe the government should do more and publicly announce to the country that it isn't us so much that's polluting the world. It's more them.
Well, the Daily Mail's done a very good job of that today and points out, among other things, that we've reached 44% of the target that we set in 1990. So we're making progress when other countries aren't and ahead of the rest of the Western world.
That's exactly it. We are doing a lot with wind farms and it's like you're on the radio. My brain's gone numb.
You've made all the brilliant points, but thank you. I'm going to go to Gemma, who's calling from Wing in Buckinghamshire, and you're joining us for the first time, Gemma. What would you like to say?
No, I've phoned once before.
You're down as a new caller. I'm misinformed, but I'm now the wiser. Thank you.
It's lovely to talk to you again. Oh gosh, there are so many things that bug me about the hypocrisy of many of these campaigners. We've already alluded to the actress flying in to help.
Yes, I forgot her name. Do you remember her name?
Well, I think she might be called Emma Thompson.
Brilliant. I knew it would come to us.
That's right. There seems to be a very anti-human aspect to environmental, but it's other people who are the problem, people who haven't yet been born, people who've had too many children, like you, like me, but they never volunteer to remove themselves from the planet, interestingly.
No, I like having lots of children. I defend my 6 children. I don't want to give any of them up in the sake of climate change.
Absolutely. There seems to be a very anti-progress aspect to it as well. We're not going backwards is never going to be palatable to the public. I don't think the Victorians got rid of the problem of excess horse manure by stopping travelling. Have you heard of a scientist called Bjorn Lomborg?
No, I don't know him.
You may not have heard of him because he's one of these many scientists who have been silenced because they don't toe the line about climate change, because they, as scientists, are sceptical. And he did a cost-benefit analysis of the most efficient, the most effective things that we could do, specifically from the point of the environment. And what he concluded was that the most effective and efficient thing we could do is invest in early years education, particularly in developing nations, because there are a couple of reasons. There is a link between GDP and people's concern for the environment. They don't start thinking about clean air if they haven't got full bellies. And really, these children that we're not allowed to have, this is the next generation of scientists who are going to be the ones who come up with a palatable and effective solution to these problems.
Well, Gemma, thank you. That's very much the Matthew Ridley view, that technology and human ingenuity will solve the problem. And that's what I think, because people have had this millenarian view again and again, and we've always managed to get through it. Thank you for calling, Gemma. I'm going to go to Robin in Ipswich. Robin, hello, good evening.
Good evening. You just had a young lady on. I agree wholeheartedly with her. But there's one point I would really like to make. The police can find 5,000 police officers to police the Notting Hill Carnival. They can find 1,000 police officers for these eco-friendly idiots. And yet they cannot have anybody patrol the streets to try to stop knife crime. And there was a young lady not so far from here actually phoned 999 because somebody was threatening to kill her. She waited 2 hours and somebody actually killed her.
Oh, it's terrible. And you do wonder where all these police are when there aren't protesters filling the streets. Yeah, it's a very good point. Robin, I've got so many callers this evening. I think you've made a brilliant point. I'm going to go to KP, who's calling from Shetland. That's an honour. You're the first caller I've taken from the Shetland. So, well, KP, hello.
The honour's reciprocal, Jacob, because it's a real pleasure to make contact with you finally. And the protesters in London are somewhat misguided. We live in a very, very clean environment, 650 miles north of London, whereby there's a person here who's got a hydrogen car in Orkney, 80 miles down the road from us, the island of Orkney. They've got tidal power. But this is nothing new, because I'm at the age when I was born, the population of the world was about just under about 4.5 billion people. Now it's 7.7 billion. I'll come back to that point in a moment, if I might. But I remember in the 70s we were protesting against the ozone, against Freon from fridges. We were campaigning when I lived in Canada against the mercury that they found in Love Canal. We were protesting against 3 Mile Island that let out an enormous amount of radioactivity in a great accident. This is nothing new. These protesters are misguided to the fact, yes, we are creating climate change. When I was in Greenland a couple of years ago, Yes, we notice that the ice caps are melting drastically. We notice that the sea levels have risen in Shetland by about a centimetre. Well, this is not unusual. But yes, we are exacerbating climate change. But this is what I want to say, Jacob. The protesters ought to take their stakes up, march off to Washington, and sit outside the White House to a president who doesn't believe in climate change, and then they ought to make their way down to Brazil and march outside the president's residence down there. He doesn't believe in climate change either.
It's a brilliant point, and I have a feeling they'll be flying, because they seem to enjoy flying in comfort when they think...
Don't they? But what I want to say is they should be protesting against the world population, because we know only too well, by the end of this century, the world population will be anywhere from 10 to 12 billion people. It's not the, that's the problem.
I want to get in one more caller before I have to end. Thank you very much for your brilliant point. Simon, calling from Brixton. Simon, hello.
Oh, hello, Jacob.
You've got about 20 seconds.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with the previous caller. I think population is an issue, actually. I think the church leaders and the religious leaders of the world should be preaching, try to just have 2 children if possible. God bless your 6 children.
Thank you. I'm not going to encourage that, I must confess. You see, as I said earlier, I think Maltha's got it wrong, and that the world can cope with its increased population. But I've got your key point. Charles in Bournemouth has tweeted to say, I was disgusted to see police skateboarding amongst the crowds of people. We need to get a grasp on this before it's deemed acceptable to block roads. Time is up. You've been listening to Jacob Rees-Mogg on LBC this Good Friday, talking about the protests that have been going on and the people who don't like democracy. I'm going to be back next Friday from 6. Coming up at 10 tonight, it's Nick Abbott. But up next...